Hey, how you doing? Mike here. Um, Lots of stuff going on in my life, and want to be transparent with you guys out there. I'm not ashamed, so I don't care who watches or sees or knows about me. I have nothing to hide. So, a lot of things going down. I've been a alcoholic for a long time, like serious drinking problem. Um, Started when I was very little. I remember I was probably, I think 5 maybe, and one of my uncles worked for Budweiser, and he had beer one day, and I asked him if I could have a sip, and he was like, "Sure." So I had a sip, and I remember at that moment, I loved it. I remember it to this day like it was yesterday. The taste of it, and I was like, "Whoa, that's good." And that's kind of what my first taste of alcohol. I know at Christmas and Easter, my parents would let us have wine to celebrate, and we had one glass, and it was cool. But I also remember going to wedding receptions when I was little, and being very, very little, and drinking everyone's champagne on the table, running around, and I would just take the champagne and drink it, and all the adults thought it was funny, as I'm going around, and I'm thinking I was probably 4 or 5, but I remember it, taking the champagne and drinking it. And kind of always started from there. Then once high school rolled around, I started drinking even more. I was going to any party that I could go to, and like most of us did, I think, in high school, and I was drinking tons of beers, always to the point where I couldn't even walk anymore. And that should have been a sign right there, I know we all did stuff like that, but most of us anyway, but I did. And then I always had a hankering for whiskey, loved it. I would drink Jack Daniels, so I know with friends we loved Jack Daniels, and I would drink that. We'd keep it in the freezer so it was nice and cold and do shots of that, and basically drank solid from the time I was moved out of my house. And I graduated high school at 18, and a week later I moved to Keene, New Hampshire. I didn't go to college. I just moved into an apartment with my friends and basically started drinking every night. So we were drinking beers every night. We had friends that were old enough to get it for us, so we'd get beers and hard alcohol. And other drugs were coming in. We were smoking pot all the time, and mushrooms and all of that stuff. We kind of let in and started doing other things. So pretty much all the way in my music career, all the way through my 20s, 30s, I was not really my 30s, but my 20s, I was always partying hard. And I was a social person. I loved being at the party. I loved talking with people and partying with people. It's fun, so we would do it. But this thing has a major control on my life. And so, October 7th, 1997, I remember, but before that night, I was in a good band, a bunch of local guys that were rocking, really good band, and still every night before bed for me to go to sleep, because I had anxiety and all this stuff going on in my head, so I would always drink hard booze to try to pass out and fall asleep, because it would quiet my brain, and so I would do that. And then October 7th, 1997, that's the night I called on the name of Jesus outside of Panucci's Ale. Well, it was down the street from Panucci's, but basically I say Panucci's Ale House because it was like 2 houses down, and I lived at Panucci's at the time. I was always there. There were even times I was there where I drank so much I'd be in the booth and passing out, and the owner would be like, "Mike, you can't stay here. You need to go home." I mean, even back then I was just drinking to capacity. I drink as much as I could. So anyway, I got saved October 7th, 1997, and I stopped drinking that night. I felt delivered. I smoked cigarettes too then. I stopped smoking that night. I stopped drinking that night. I stopped swearing that night. My whole life changed. I moved out of my apartment I was living with a girl at the time. I moved out of there into a little apartment so I could just spend time with the Lord. I wanted to always spend time in prayer because I got such a joy and thrill out of it. A lot of years would go by. Actually, I got married not too long after I was saved. Then, after a few years, at family functions, everyone at the functions were all drinkers except for pretty much me, because I was a born-again Christian, and we didn't drink. I was delivered of that, and I didn't even want to drink, But then someone offered me a beer, and I was like, yeah, one's not going to hurt me. And I love beer, so I had a beer. And I was like, man, that's good. And so the next time we were up there, and I was shocked I even had one beer, because I really quit. I didn't want to ever have any kind of thing that altered my body at all. But I did. And the next time we were up there, was 2 beers. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I left it at that. And then the next time it was 3. Then pretty soon, every time I was going over, I was drinking at least a minimum of 5 beers. And then other things were coming out. There was always shots going on. And I remember I started doing shots and sneaking them behind people's backs. I started getting back into my old person, and alcohol started controlling my life again. So years would go by, and I only left it on weekends, and it was always only at that family's events that this stuff would go down. I never had it at home. I started playing in rock bands again, because even after I got saved, I wasn't playing any bands anymore. But I missed playing music, and in church I wasn't getting fulfilled, because I was always just playing chords or playing the drums, and didn't get to play lead guitar and do what I wanted to do. So I got in a good rock band. All of a sudden I was playing out, making money, and using my gifts that I enjoyed doing. I was actually allowed to do what I like to do, and that lifestyle, not that the music or anything, but for a person that's an alcoholic like myself, that environment just was like, I was psyched, It's like beers, and with other people who love beers, and there's no consequences for that, So I started, at all my gigs, just started drinking more. Then I'd try to stop. I'd go a few weeks and stop, and then always pick it back up again. Then it started progressively getting worse and worse. I was getting more and more dissettled at home. I wasn't getting fulfilled in church, even though my love for God was so huge. And I started stopping at the liquor store and buying nips. And I would buy the 99-cent nips that are for sale. And I remember the first ones I got the first time I went in were this like called 99 Bananas. It was like 100 proof banana liquor or whatever, so I started with that. Then I found vodkas that I really like Finlandia. It's 99 cents, and I thought it tasted good, so I would buy 5 of those. Next thing I know, going home from work, I'd be doing shots, doing nips, and throwing them out the window, enough to be buzzed when I got home. Then I get home, and then start down in beers. I would have a few beers at home, but not a lot. I tried to hide it, but I always wanted to drink, And then I found over the years that my first marriage, I know alcohol did damage to that marriage, and my kids have been around so much drinking throughout all their family, just major alcohol, and I've been kind of carrying this double life of being like this guy who loves Jesus, which is absolutely true, born again, but at the same time a guy that acts like he belongs in the Rolling Stones and is a party animal, and I get, because it always is so fun, to me, but then all the people I hurt in the meantime, it stings. So it's been becoming so strong in my life, even at gigs, getting so hammered at gigs I'm playing that I can't even stand up hardly, and I'm playing like crap, and it's had a real damage on my life, and I'm discouraged by it, by what it's done. I say things to people I love that I don't mean, because I'll say the first thing that comes into my mind, being defensive, and I get snarky and rude and hurt people, usually just verbally, and I become someone that I don't like, and I live a double life. I was living the life of a drunk and also the life of a Christian, and feeling like a hypocrite every day because I love God so much with all my heart, and at the same time I'm being seduced by the demon alcohol that always seems to beckon me and call me to him, and I always follow, and it finally came to a head the other night. I was, there's enough gigs that I've played at with Turn It Loose where I've been totally freaking annihilated, and the guys are mad at me too, like, Mike, man, you're drunk, dude, you can't even play like that, what are you doing? And me being all drunk, like, I don't even care, so it was always a little hard, and then waking up with regret the next day, and always calling the people and saying, dude, I'm sorry I acted that way, please forgive me, and it was always the same story, and I'm tired of waking up with regret. So the other day it finally dawned on me, Mike, you're a freaking alcoholic, man. This thing has control on you, and I had to come to terms with it. Like, I am an alcoholic, man. I never really wanted to admit it, but then I realized, holy cow, I can't even drive past the discount store wanting to pull in and get a Hurricane. Even when I didn't want one, I would pull in and get one, and then drink it on the ride home and throw the can out the window. Just get a good buzz on before I got home. And alcohol has been destroying my life, and it's done so much damage before, and it was starting to do damage now, and I can't allow it to, and I know I have a problem. And so I've submitted my heart to God totally. I've admitted my fault. I'm not afraid to be transparent to all of you out there. You know me, and I love you, and I don't want to live a double life anymore, and I want to be clean of this demon, and I can never have another drink again, because every time I try and only have one, I end up having 6. I'm one of those people that can't just have one. So that's what's going on with me. I'm going to do my best. I'm not quitting the music or any bands. I want to still play out. I love Turn It Loose. I love playing music. I love doing that more than anything besides my family and the Lord. And I'm going to do my best. And with the help of people, I finally asked for help from people with my issue, my disease. And they're going to help me. And I'm going to overcome this thing called alcoholism. And I'm going to be totally who God has called me to be. Anyway, have a great night. I love all of you, and thanks for listening to me.